Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about spiritual attachments with Dawn Grace Kelly. She's a spiritual teacher, an author, a regressionist, and an energy intuitive from New Zealand. So yeah, Dawn, you can tell us a bit about yourself. And everyone can jump in and ask questions whenever.
Hi, welcome everybody. A little bit about myself. So I've been a spiritual healer for I think about this life, but you know, things go back a long way, don't they? Especially when you do past life work. But this incarnation, getting on to 3 decades now. So I was a flight attendant for a long time while I was doing training in all sorts of cool spiritual stuff. And I moved in my late 20s into spiritual healing work. And that led me into past life regression and tarot and energy, intuitive work and channeling and shadow work and counseling and psychology and all sorts of cool metaphysical stuff. So I've had a private practice for all of that time, although now I tend to spend more of my time teaching and writing and speaking than I do with clients, but I do like to do a little bit of that just to keep my training up. Yeah, and I'm in the midst of starting a new school. So that's Secret Schools at this stage, but stay tuned because there's all sorts of cool new stuff coming out from me. And yeah, we're here today to talk about spirit attachments. What would you like to know?
Yeah, so basically, so how did you get into the work with the spiritual attachments? How did that start?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, how come I know about this? I would have to say that was, well, actually the first time was when I was a new spiritual healer, and one of my clients was telling me that she was having some issues at her property that she thought were to do with spirits. Now, I had done nothing like that before, yet my mentor, my spiritual healing mentor, was doing work with spirit attachments with people. And I was amazed when he would share what he was doing. And so I rang him and said, I've got to go out to this farm and I think there's spirits out there, and what the hell do I do? I've never done anything like this before. He said, you'll be fine. That was his guidance. You'll be fine. So I went out there completely cold, but I was able to tune into the spirits that were there. There were Aboriginal spirits there actually, and they'd been digging on the land. So I just listened, I got information, I connected in with these spirits, and I've got, that's quite a big story that I don't have time for here, but I learned how to do that work by my spirit guides, by my side, helping make these amazing shifts. And so I think this work kind of calls people. I don't think we go looking for it, but from there, clients would come with issues to do with what was going on in their house. So I ended up doing house clearing work and in offices and nightclubs and homes and all sorts of things. And that really was my training. Although I did have personal training as well, because I was using marijuana quite heavily at that time. For a long time, that was an addiction of mine, and that certainly brings in spirit attachments. So I had them coming, not just spirits in the room, which is one thing, but spirits attached to my body, which is a whole nother thing again. So I did some hard yards learning in that way, as well as doing some training. So yeah.
So what is a earthbound spirit?
So an earthbound spirit is it's an energy that hasn't moved over into the light. So when we die, we want to go over into higher dimensions. And maybe if we can talk 3rd, 4th, 5th dimension, and I know there's dimensions within dimensions, but just to keep it simple, we're 3D. Well, we were. That's another interesting topic. We're moving more 4D. But the 4th dimension is, well, the 5th dimension is where we go when we're healing and recovering and planning new lives. And in between, there's this 4th dimension, which is really close to Earth. So that's where the fairies and the divas and the plant spirits and maybe some of the native people stay close to the earth when they die sometimes as well. But it's also where, if we have issues that are unfinished or fears of any kind, or we're scared of the light, we stay in this place. So it's where we tend to be when we've suicided, because we generally haven't made peace with ourselves. So we tend to stay close to earth then. So it's like a spirit that hasn't moved into the light properly, that doesn't think they deserve to, or doesn't want to go to the light for some reason. So it makes them a little more tangible, a little more easy to feel and sense, and for intuitives or clairvoyants to see, because it is a little closer to the third dimension. So that's kind of a waffly answer, but the short answer is it's a spirit who hasn't moved into the light properly. Yeah.
And when they become an attachment, what happens there?
So a spirit attachment, so there's different names. So earthbound spirit and spirit attachment are commonly used words, but a spirit attachment is when an energy that is in that fourth dimensional realm comes to hang out close to a person, or maybe even an object, or but a person essentially. So they come into our energy field and they feed off our energy is the short answer. They hang around us. It's like having a limpet attached to us. So they come into our energy field and feed off our energy.
And so why would they do that?
Yeah.
So what are the common reasons why a spirit would attach to someone?
Yeah, good question. Can I screen share? Can you make me?
Yeah.
Okay, so
what I'm going to do is I'll make you a co-host. There we go.
So what's helpful for this? What attracts an earthbound spirit? Let's have a look at that. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Okay, that's on my screen. Let's have a look. We'll go again. Okay.
Yeah,
Got
that's
that?
it.
Cool. Yep. So what attracts an earthbound spirit to hang around a person? And maybe we could title this why is a spirit wanting to attach to us? So they'll do that because we've got similar thoughts. So thoughts are vibration, thoughts are energy. So like-minded thoughts harmonize together. And if you've read my book, if you haven't, you should. But there's a little bit about entrainment, which is a science word about how the frequencies harmonize. So similar thoughts, and these are usually fear-based thoughts. So our fear-based thoughts will attract a similar fear-based thought from someone hanging around in the fourth dimension. So similar addictions as well. So this is super common. So drugs and alcohol, if you've got a drug and alcohol problem and they had a drug and alcohol problem, they're going to want to be around to get a bit of that high. They can't get drunk or stoned, obviously, because they don't have a body, but they can certainly have a sense of that to do with the energy. So that is one common thing. Well, obviously our thoughts are common, but addictions, as humans, we've got so many addictions. So this is something I see a lot, and maybe it's sex will do it as well, but gambling, all the different addictions can pull them in. Similar emotions. So if you're stuck in victim mode and they're in victim mode, that can harmonize. A vacant body, so being out of your body, like partially or totally. And that's a really big topic. I've written a large chapter in my book about being grounded because it's super important, and we don't realize how important it is to spend more time in our body. And all of us are out of our body some of the time. More than we need to be. So if we're out of our body due to trauma or shock, which is a couple of bullet points down there, then our body's kind of open for mischievous or annoying spirits to come into. So that's a whole nother field again, and that's what people talk about as possession. That's not so common, but they can certainly come a bit closer when you're out of your body. And so we need to talk about all the different things that get us out of our body, but we won't do that now. So anesthesia can do it. This often happens in hospitals. So our aura's natural protection can be damaged there. So if you are going in for anesthetic, you want to get some blue light around you and get your intentions and energy set for your body to be taken care of by spirit. Trauma and shock, because we're coming out of our body. We've all had trauma, so varying degrees of trauma can have us out and bring an attachment in. Psychic work not done properly can do that, not done with prayer and intention. Drugs, so prescription drugs, recreational drugs, and let's get clear here that drugs are not just recreational like we've been told by the media. We're addicted to prescription drugs, we're addicted to sugar, we're addicted to caffeine and over-the-counter drugs. They're all things that can damage us and harm our auric field, which means we're more permeable. And incidentally, we're more permeable with all of these things to do with viruses as well. A virus is not an earthbound spirit, but it is an attack or invasion on our system. So a strong energy field can stop us getting viruses and spirit attachments. Vicinity, so where we are. So if we're close to where people have died and that spirit is in shock, it can latch on to the first safe kind of place. So they can be attracted to healers as well, because they want some help to be able to move over. So yeah, being around where people have died can be an indication as well. So sensing they can get help, that can bring them to you. So this is where healers come in. Feeling overly attached to a person from when they were alive. So intense relationships can have them attaching. Intensity and drama, because they bring excess energy. So the more energy that they're getting, that is their life force really. So anywhere they can get excess energy. And weakness of any kind. So we look at a list like this. Well, I look at a list like this and think that's a lot. And it is a lot, and it makes us quite vulnerable. But really, if we could see how many spirits were in the fourth dimension and where they're hanging out, I think we'd get a surprise. This is super common. So yeah, that's probably all I need to say about that at this point. Yeah.
If anyone has any questions, you can jump in.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of sobering, I imagine. Just seeing how, there's a nice book that Michelle's holding up. Thanks, Michelle. It is a good book. Yeah, it is a good book. There's no chapter about this in there though, but there's some cool stuff in there. But yeah, look, this is really common. So how does it affect us might be a good question to ask. Yeah. So if this is happening, then what might the consequences be? So you probably know some of those, but let's jump to another handout I've got here. Okay, so these are the kind of things that can happen. Low energy, uncomfortable emotions such as anger that you can't pinpoint, emotions appearing abruptly, confused thoughts, illness, inner voices that don't feel like your higher self, guides or aspects of yourself, feeling paralyzed in bed, sleeping issues, feeling stuck, chronic procrastination, sudden change in behavior and difficulty concentrating, sexual behavior changes, memory problems, and statements like, I just don't know what got into me, I just wasn't myself, I don't feel like myself lately. So that list, as you can see, is, I mean, we all get low energy and we get sick and we get confused thoughts. So just because you've got one of those things obviously doesn't mean that you have a spirit attachment, but this is the kind of stuff that happens and we can think it's something else, but it's actually a spirit attachment. So we might need a little bit of help to sort this out, but essentially we're looking for things that where you're just confused about why this is the way it is and this is sudden and I can't get to the bottom of this, then it might be worth checking out with somebody whether this is actually going on. This inner voices one's interesting. So I think about schizophrenia and some of these other mental health issues, and I believe that the majority of those are spirit attachments. So we're familiar with communicating with our higher self, our guides, aspects of self can be a little bit more vague. That might be your inner child or shadow aspects of yourself. But if you've got a particular level of evolution, you will certainly know which is which. So that's the answer
Yeah, I think
to
it's
that.
really interesting when I'm working with clients and they say they've got this voice that keeps on telling things to them. I'm like, oh, well, whose voice is it? Is it yours? And they're like, I don't know, it's this guy's voice. Do you recognize it? No. And then we know that there's stuff going on. It's interesting, when you actually ask the client, well, do you recognize the voice? Because many, maybe just because of being in here and doing this kind of work, it's quite often they don't know.
Yeah, so some simple questioning is a really smart idea, definitely. So those voices are definitely one thing. And it can depend on how you perceive as well. So you might be more of a feeling person, and it might just not feel right around you, or the vibe might not feel right. It's definitely a bit more tangible to know when there's a spirit in a room or in a space. Has anyone had experience of that? Yeah, you have, Justine?
Yeah, lots of times, yeah.
Yeah, so have you been like in a space or a room where, you know, or a haunted house or what have you? I mean, those things are, you know, that's creepy. There's a creepy kind of vibe. Maybe the air's cold, or maybe.
I've definitely I work in the line of birth, and I've definitely had experiences in that realm where a birthing woman, usually just before she has her baby, where her sensitivity is very, very heightened and the veil is quite thin, and she will say often, you know, my nana's here, or mum's here, or my sister's here. Cool. And once I acknowledge that in a room, usually you can feel it on your, well, I must feel, I guess. Yeah. You can feel it on your skin, and once that acknowledgement's happened with the woman, usually then she goes on to have her baby. But I often see them coming in, or feel them coming in just before they.
Oh, Teresa, that's super cool. That's probably that's sort of the opposite of what we're talking about, but it's certainly in the same vein, because that is some power and some light coming in. And
that's lovely to hear. Working in healthcare, I've often seen people when they're about to pass, or when the day's coming up, that the family will come in and they'll all be there waiting for them. I remember years ago, and I'd walk in and I'd say to this lady, "Morning, Jane, morning, everyone," because the room felt full.
Yeah.
And you get the occasional. I mean, I remember bending down to this lady's catheter, and I was just away at the side, and a man had sort of crossed his legs and moved them out the way as I came, even though we're not sort of physically there together. It was just.
Oh, that's so cool that you can perceive that, Nikki. That's
but he
really
crossed
cool.
his legs. I could see his trousers, his socks, his shoes, and he just moved out the way when I got in there. So that was nice.
Look, there's spirits everywhere, but the ones that Nikki and Teresa are talking about, they're the ones that we want around. That they're coming in at these at the beginning and at the end of these lives to help assist. So
sorry, I'll just butt in again. I'm working in the hospital, being there at night time, and I'm often always there at night time, and walking down into the mortuary or anywhere near that area feels extremely uncomfortable. And we all say how awful it is going across to mental health, because it is such a ungrounded, fragmented energy, and you can almost hear them as you're walking over. It is intensely unusual, and all of us say it, all of us, and it's probably
well, you're sensitive, empathic healers, so you're going to pick this up. So we've got two things here. We've got the light, the guides, and the family that want to help us come into this life or transition out of this life, and that feels good. That feels exciting and moving and touching. It's a different vibe to not feeling okay or not feeling safe with a earthbound spirits. So these are not earthbound spirits that Nikki and Teresa are talking about. These are more evolved spirits that are coming in, friends and family, but they're more fifth dimensional from what that feels like. But what Teresa's talking about with the mortuary, and can you feel like I can feel it when she talks about that on my body. So there, and in the mental health unit, so there's two things happening here. The mortuary, we've got people who have left their body, or, so when I talk about something like this, I start to vibe into it, and I can come into your mortuary, Teresa, and I start to feel that. So we've got people who have died, who knew they were dying, and they're moving off. We've got people who might not have known they were dying. There might be some shock, so they're still around. We've got spirit attachments that are hoping to get into a body, so they hang around with a body that might still be workable. So there's a lot going on in there. And then over in the mental health ward, we've got that's deep and dense and a whole different vibe again.
Oh, it really, really is.
Yeah, I can feel that. And the majority of them have got spirit attachments, and not just one, they'll have a few of them. And then there'll be some hanging around on the periphery as well. And then there'll be the ones that are around the staff there that don't know how to take care of themselves. So they will have them as well. And it's just like full. You can
so
probably,
full.
It's really full, and that's a very difficult energy to be in. So what you're picking up is fragmentation. That's definitely what trauma does to people. So that will be happening, but also all of these spirits. So look, it's an epidemic, really. They're everywhere. And what we need, who wants to go there?
One good thing, I guess, about Rotorua is that our demographic is more than 50% Māori, and we do have kaumātuas, etc., within our health system. So they're acutely aware of this, and they're always moving around in that realm and healing from that realm as well. So I don't know what other healthcare systems do, but being Ngāti Whakaui over here, they do a lot of that, a lot of spiritual work with that.
Oh,
but
I love to hear that. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge aspect of healthcare in Rotorua, actually, but it's still not enough.
Yeah, and maybe some of them do their own private practices that get into healthcare systems remotely as well. They may do that. So I guess what I want you to know.
I was just going to say, Persis has got a question.
Oh yeah, let's hear it, Persis.
It's not a question, but I experienced something totally different. And I experienced this white light, like tiny white light just going past the corner of my eye.
Oh.
And immediately I know that I have someone in the room with me. But it's absolutely harmless. It's really good. It's a good feeling. It's not a bad feeling.
Yeah, I imagine a white light is a lovely thing. So you're more
tiny
like
speck, and it'll be really sudden. Like I'm just sitting and watching TV, and suddenly I see this white flash going past me, and it kind of, it's like as if it's trying to say that I'm here, because it makes itself quite noticeable.
Yeah, so something's trying to get your attention. So that's a good sign to sit still and listen and find out who it is and what it's about.
I've never done that, actually. I've never actually tried to find out what and who, but it's a good feeling. Maybe I'm scared to find out.
Yeah, I would be totally okay, something's trying to get my attention here. Now I've got to listen.
And this happens to me like almost every single day.
Well, I'm not surprised because you're not listening. So you need to sit still and just tune in, and maybe with a pen, if that's your thing, to see what comes through your hand, or get yourself in a receptive state to listen.
Yeah, and I do auto writing. I used to do auto writing. I've stopped. I used to do auto writing with my dad.
For goodness sake, just work it out. You've got a wonderful stage 1 happening there. So we need to reconnect and find out what happened in stage 2, which is when you listen. So we listen and we receive easily. So that's just emptying. It's simple. It's get in your body, empty your mind, and just concentrate and listen with a pen or with your ears. Yeah. Okay, so now we know that, well, you probably knew this anyway, but from what we've been talking about, we know that there's a particular varied list of things that can bring these energies close to us, and that they can have all sorts of repercussions that are not very helpful. So we probably need to know what to do about it. Might be the next thing that we talk about. Yeah. So
with the I was going to say, with the attachments, the ones that are passed over, are there any other kinds that you come across? So not just people that have chosen to not pass over.
Yeah. So there's there is. So there's thought forms is one thing. They don't have any intelligence as such, but collective thoughts can make a dense energy that can attach to people as well. There is darker energies who like to think it's their job to keep people in fear. So people are not evolving and light is not taking over. So there's darker energies that might not have been in body before. What else? Nothing else jumps to mind. There probably is a couple of other things there, but yeah. But the main thing we're looking at is spirits that haven't moved over.
Yeah. So what do we do if we find ourselves in that situation, or people around us?
Yeah, well, as healers, you girls will bump into them with your clients, and maybe you're aware of it yourself. So if you are, then you need to maybe get some support from somebody who knows a little bit about that. But really, it's simple. It's quite simple stuff. Simple yet profound, I suppose, because we need to come out of fear. That's the first thing you need to do, because fear is what feeds these energies. So this is what we would teach children who are seeing things in their room. This is what we need to teach ourselves, and we need to teach our clients. So get out of fear, which sounds pretty simple, but that can take you on a whole journey if you're holding fear from religious beliefs maybe, or something that keeps you disempowered. So that could be some work in itself, is just starting you on the journey of how to get empowered and not be scared of anything. So a little bit of education. So coming out of fear. So you need to get yourself into a love state, and maybe you need to pray, maybe you need to breathe. And let's just say you've got, has anyone had anything happen in the nighttime where they haven't been able to move and they've felt scared? Have you had that happen?
Yes, no? I have. I've had I used to have visitations, actually. It was quite awful.
Yeah, it is
Usually I had these 3 shadowy male energies. I think I lived up around Blomfield Street at the time, which is an area in Rotorua where I believe there was mass graves up around there, but when I didn't live there I didn't have it anymore, but definitely on this particular piece of land. But I used to find having been brought up Catholic, what's been left over from that I use still now all the time, and it's beautiful, is I just do one thing of the rosary to the Holy Mother as the divine goddess, and I find that's very protective and beautiful, and it aligns with me because I'm no longer religious, but it still aligns beautifully. So I usually use that in those situations where it feels very dark.
Yeah, that would totally work. Thanks for sharing, Teresa, because this is common. I've certainly had plenty of it, and I hear lots of this, but it's a good example to use because you're in your bed, you're scared, it's the middle of the night, there's nobody there, and it's a freaky thing that you've finally, that you've found yourself in, and it can bring like a what people say is sleep paralysis, but there's an entity in the room or an earthbound spirit in the room that's probably a bit of a darker energy than just your standard person who's a bit lost.
Yeah, I've had to shift out of houses before. I had to shift out of a house on Sunset Road because it was very haunted and it was not a nice feeling.
Yeah. Well, if you can't, well, clearing the energy from the house can work, but moving can certainly work as well. But so the first thing you need to do when you're scared is to stop being scared. And this can take a bit of work when you've been taken off guard like that. So that's like breathe into the heart, remember what you know. And if you don't know this, do know this, because light, dark doesn't want to be around light. It's really simple. There's nothing for it there. It's threatening to it. So you're lifting into a lighter energy. So you're remembering love, you're breathing love. Maybe you're asking for Jesus if you align with that energy. I like to work with Jesus. Buddha, Sai Baba, Archangel Michael, whoever your bigger guides are. You don't need those because you can do this yourself with your own higher self. But if you have any fear, then you need to bring in some support like that. So you're breathing into light and taking yourself out of fear, and straight away that will dissipate what's happening and you'll get your feeling back, because that light, that's just a threat. They will move from that light. And then depending on your awareness and your abilities, you could see them going into the light. You could ask these guides that you're working with to put them in light and take them into the light, which is probably exactly what's going to happen without your prayers, but you can add that in there, and then they're just lifted away, because when you've got these big guns coming in, they will just totally lift this away. So it's about prayer and healing and love. So the biggest thing I can convey to you is do not be scared, because you're going to disempower yourself and give them more power, and then it gets more freaky. So away from the nighttime stuff, what if you sense as you're going about your day that, oh, maybe I've got a few too many things on that list that Dawn was sharing, and maybe that's what's going on. Well, once again, depending on your inner awareness abilities, you can do this yourself, or you can get somebody like me or Justine to support you. But you can, and how I would work with a client is by getting them to see these things themselves. So what I'm saying, if you bump into this, so you need to sit still and you need to close your eyes, and you might want to do a scan of your body. And someone can facilitate this for you if you don't know how to do this yourself, where you can look back at your body and do an energetic scan, or you can feel down one side of your body and then the other side to see what the difference might be. We can pinpoint into a particular area. So I'm talking about two things at once here, but they can be helpful for one another. So if I am working with somebody and I suspect this because of the nature of what they're talking about, or what I can feel or see or sense in the room, I don't want to put that out there and say, hey, guess what, you've got a spirit attachment, because this is just my perception. I want to know what they're picking up. So I'm going to guide them as to how they can work this out themselves, because we all need to know what's going on with our own body, really. So I would get them, and you can use your hypnosis skills. I would get them to close their eyes and tune in. And maybe you can use some kind of short induction just to get them in a slightly altered state. And then you can get them looking where the discordancy is in their body, where the feeling is. And then I will guide them to when this feeling first arrived and what was going on then. And we'll find that we're back in some trauma where this spirit jumped in, and they will see that this is coming in. They will actually see the energy, or they will find the energy in their field, and then we might dialogue with it. So there's a little bit to learn here. So I'm sort of jumping into more professional stuff, I guess. And I'm putting a big course together on this, on how therapists can work with, so spirit attachment, or spirit releasement therapy is what we'll be doing to bring our clients awareness into what's going on, and then some protocols on how to shift this. But look, the short version is stay out of fear, get into love, notice what you can around yourself. I'll work with an intuitive person to help you see what's around yourself. And then using your higher self light, your guide energy, spiritual healing, that energy will be lifted away into light. Often, if they're a tough energy, they'll be wrapped up in light, and they don't like that. They just sort of shrink and shrivel and move away. So that's, I guess that's part one, how to move one. But we really want to go a little bit further and look at, why did you have one? What's going on with your energy field that brings this as an attraction? So that's where I want to head. Yes, we can move them away very quickly. They're not hard to move away. But are you going to get another one because you've got this weak part in your energy field, or you've got this strong fear belief, or you've got, well, I'll use myself as an example. So I'm thinking around my sacral chakra band, not the chakra itself, but that area of my body around the front and the back, where you would get physical issues if your sacral chakra stuff hasn't been healed. So your hip problems and reproductive problems, etc. So if you've had some trauma in that area, which I have, and most of us girls have had, you will have come out of your body possibly around that area, which will create a tear in that particular area of your body. We could be talking any area of your body, but just say you've had some sexual trauma, which I have, and is very common to have happened. I discovered that with some long-standing pain and hip issues, that physical stuff wasn't getting to the bottom. Well, I'd get relief, you know, chiropractors and deep massage and what have you. I'd get some relief, but it was always an issue. And you know how we like to say it was the accident, so it's, you know, like it's a chronic issue and it's up and down, but there's always something deeper going on. So when I looked energetically around there, I could see a tear in the field there. So this is where I've been coming out of my body. So this makes an area where energies can come in. So when spirit attachments come, they would come in through this area and cause more problems. So why am I telling you this? I mean, it's interesting in and of itself. That's why I'm telling you, because we've got to find out what the belief patterns are, where the energy is, where there's maybe tears or holes or however you want to say that in your energy pattern, that needs to be healed. But for that to be fully healed, you need to have made peace with that trauma. So this is one of the cool things about it. It's not just some random bad spirit attachment, which it can look like. There's a co-creation going on here. Maybe even a soul contract in some instances, because when you take this all the way through to what is the resonation and why am I bringing this in, what is it that you need to heal within yourself so you're not attracting that sort of energy anymore? Yeah, that's sort of yeah. Is that helpful? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, does it make sense?
Totally. Yeah, working on that.
Yeah, and this is what I
well.
see in this field. You know, there is a number of people in this field around the world, but I'm not seeing a lot of, there's plenty of how to move on a spirit, but there's not a lot of why did you get that in the first place, and let's look at healing that. So, you know, I'm always interested in root causation of everything. You know, that is what I do essentially. I get to the root, whether it's in a past life, another dimension, a trauma, and whether we're working with spirit attachments or your physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual issue, we're wanting to know where was the very beginning of this, and what do we need to shift? What do we need to clear mentally? Definitely. And I think as hypnotherapists, I actually don't know what you all do. I'm sure you specialize in different things, but I know as hypnotherapists, it's not uncommon to work on the mental realm, which is really important. But if you, and the physical, I think as well, and possibly emotional, but all four of these holistic levels of our body have got to be covered. For real healing to happen, it's got to happen on all four levels, which includes the spiritual and the mental and the emotional and the physical. So there'll be repercussions across all of those holographic layers of our energetic pattern for any issue, really. So spirit attachment, we can shift it, but let's have a look at why that's there and what we need to do about that as well, especially if it's recurring, because it often is.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
A massive topic.
It is a massive topic. And, you know, I've taught weekend workshops on what I used to call an introduction to earthbound spirits. And I guess we're getting a little sort of overview of that today, and how to work with one in a space and how to clear one in a space. But then there's this field of the actual spirit attachment, and then we've got to ascertain the type of spirit attachment, because the darker ones are another thing again, and they've got their own agenda, and they will often come to the light workers, which you all are, to stop you being a light worker. So they'll come in on your weaknesses, which is kind of cool, because if you do work with that, you get to find out what your weaknesses are. So if it's your sugar addiction or your secret fear of success or what have you, they'll get in on this. You know, they'll resonate with your fear or your unresolved trauma, to, you know, and that can keep you a little bit stuck. And you're wondering why you're not going forward, and you've got these little subtle, quiet addictions going on. So, you know, it can take you into that realm. So there's spirit attachments, there's dark attachments, there's how therapists like yourselves take somebody through a releasement protocol and into the therapy of looking at what's beneath all of that. And then there's what Justine was talking about earlier, which I do talk more about in that intro workshop, is all the different things that can be around that are not, you know, thought forms and the other things that I can't remember off the top of my head now. There's a whole realm there as well. And I think this work's going to become more important as we're becoming more, collectively, we're becoming more aware of spirituality. I mean, and you all obviously are to be here today, but collectively we're waking up a little bit more. So, and we're starting to see more of what's going on the fourth dimension. And, you know, a lot of us who work in this field work with many dimensions and other dimensional energies. Yet there's a collective rising up from the third dimension. So the fourth dimension is starting to be a little bit easier to access. And I think as we move along, it'll be even easier. So we will need some skills, because I think we're going to be picking this up more and more, really. I mean, how long can psychiatry go on without knowing about this? I mean, they do. I mean, my last past life regression training had a psychiatrist in it, but it's that kind of field that needs to know about this sort of stuff, because there's profound shifts when we work with this.
I have been sent people through mental health here for spirit attachment, which is really interesting. Kids that they would have diagnosed as schizophrenia, but or you know, having different voices going on, that they felt were along the spiritual line, have been sent here to work with.
That's interesting.
And I think it's because, like Teresa said, Rotorua, it's a bit more holistic. It's a bit more, there are people in the field that do believe in this kind of stuff, and you end up seeing so much. How can you not?
Yeah, at some point there's going to be a wake up, but I'm curious. That's awesome what you're sharing. I'm curious. It would be good to talk to them about how they differentiate. You know, what makes them think that some people are this sort of schizophrenic and some people are that sort of schizophrenic. I'll
give you one example of a client that came through, and this was a long time ago, and it was just a person that had angels speaking to them all the time. So the messages weren't negative. They weren't affecting their life in a way that was harming the person in any way, but the family were quite worried about it.
They were thinking it was a mental health issue.
And so they did go through the mental health system, and they were sent to me as well. And it was just a very spiritually opened teenager.
Yeah, cool.
You know, and so we got a handle on them and cut it down so that it wasn't interrupting their day anymore, really.
Yeah.
But people are becoming more open to it heaps in the last few years.
Look, we're needed. Those of us who are interested in this need to learn more about it, and we're really needed. I've had numerous clients, particularly young ones like you're talking about, young teenagers and older teenagers that are being pushed into the mental health system as well, when really they're just really tuned in and they're accessing other dimensions. And sometimes their unresolved trauma has them hanging out extendedly in other dimensions and not in their body. And that can certainly look like a mental health issue, totally. But they're not. So, you know, things are changing. Yeah, go, Michelle.
So one of the things I've recently become aware of working within the dimensions of the ET realms is that there has been an energy form created specifically for light workers to prevent them from moving forward into their power.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's like a. Has anyone ever seen Venom, the movie Venom? Well, there's a movie called Venom.
Do we need to see it?
Yeah, well, I love Avenger, Marvel, all those type of movies.
Oh yeah, cool. Yep.
But it's a little bit like that, and it's like a symbiotic type form, and it's how I see it as being quite black, and it moves around and it actually attaches itself, but it's been specifically designed to prevent light workers that have come into this lifetime, into this awakening, to prevent them from moving into their power, into their soul contract.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me, but we work with that in no differently to what I've said, because nothing has more power than we do in our light. So we just need to be fully light. So I'm time aware, but there's some. I'm just noticing that we haven't talked about how we can take care of ourselves from this happening again, or how we can take care of ourselves so it doesn't happen at all. And you're probably starting to get the idea from what we're talking about. This would be a good book, actually. Here's something else I have to do. I'll put this on my list. We need to stop all the fear bullshit that we do. And that's not a short fix, is it? Because we're talking about we need to evolve, essentially. So number one would be stopping being in fear about anything. So no fear. The more, if you could see what fear thoughts like worry or anger, anything that's not a love thought, if you could see what that does to your physical body and your energetic pattern, you would be working on stopping it. And I've seen what this does energetically. So this can stop energy flowing through your body, which means your pain stays there. So it can be something as simple as pain. If you stop fear, you can stop pain as well. Like this is quite profound. It sounds really simple. And I think as ego beings, we've got a little way to go to work towards this. But as something that you can practice on the daily, stop worrying, stop saying should, stop being back in the past and stop being in the future. Get present and be congruent with how you're feeling and honor your needs in present time. That's going to create better boundaries for starters. So boundaries would be a whole nother book, course, topic that we could talk about, because boundaries have been invaded when we were younger, and we've got varying degrees of boundary issues. We've all got them. And boundary issues mean we can get invaded, and we can get invaded by our mother-in-law coming at us. But these things coming at us through our energy system, and that get into us and make us feel bad, tell us that we've got some weakness here. Now that can mean that spirit attachments can come close to us as well. So energetic boundaries across the board can be helpful. Not getting into fear. Doing what we can to make our energy field strong. I guess that's what you really need to remember. Doing what you can to make your energy field strong. Not being in fear and having good boundaries are two things you can do. But a strong energy field means you are not permeable by the person who attacks you or the spirit who wants to attach to you. So how do we have a strong energy field? That's high vibration stuff. That's being in nature. And I can't emphasize enough the power of nature as a healer. It's I know we talk about it a lot, but I think it's underrated. There is so much power when you stand in the sun, or when you are consciously with a tree, or when you're aware of the vibration of the crashing wave. There is so much power on your energy field. Standing in the rain, these are things that make your field strong. So work with nature, clean water, clean food, Salo Panto, you know, these Palo Santo, I've got it around the wrong way, you know, the smoke thing that you put around you, that vibes you up. Essential oils, you know, the things that make you strong energetically. So you know lots of what they are, and you know where your weaknesses are, but those weaknesses are going to diminish your energetic boundaries for spirit attachments and diminish your energetic boundaries with your friends and family as well. Yeah, there's nothing else jumping to my mind, but do you get the idea? We want to be strong. And if we're strong, we can stay in our power as a light worker, and we can support other people and inspire other people to be strong energetically as well. So thinking love, prayer and intention. Yep.
Has anyone got any questions or comments or?
It's kind of sinking in for you, isn't it? I mean, it's simple stuff, but it's really important stuff. The stronger you are energetically, the better healer you will be, and the better, the more you'll be able to inspire others, and you'll also be able to keep your energy clean. So if you work in a hospital, you're going to have to do this more often. But if you're going into a hospital, or you're going to a place where there's been deaths, or you've got someone close to you who's suicided, or you're working with somebody who's suicided, or you've got a drug or alcohol addiction, even if that's sleeping pills or painkillers, and nobody thinks you've got a problem, but you know you've got a problem. These are things you've got to get onto, because they are going to weaken you and they're going to attract in spirit attachments. Sleeping pills across the board, totally. It's a given you're going to have spirit attachments, and you'll be feeling grumpy the next day, etc. And it's not just to do with the drug and what it does to your brain. It's to do with what's happening with your energy field. I don't know where I started with that little rant, but you've got to be brutally honest with yourself so you can stay clean, because as soon as these things start coming in, then you start procrastinating, then you're getting stuck, then you're getting sick, and then it's like what looks like a lot of people's normal life, but it is not a normal life. Spirit attachments.
Yeah.
It's not all that, but it's bigger than we know. They're everywhere.
Yeah, and really important to know about.
Yeah, so bar taking you into some training, that's all I got for you, I think, on that topic.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn. That was cool. And
yeah,
is there information.
Have you got any questions? Or maybe if you haven't, it's a good thing. It means I've done an awesome job. I don't know.
You have done an awesome job.
Yeah. So I'm keen to hear, before we go, I'm keen to hear from each of you about what you're sitting with now and what you're going to take away from this.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I need to look more at my own stuff, as you know. You know, there's little things that we don't like to face. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be drawing things in. Yeah. It's really important. Yeah.
Yep, it really
is.
Easy
to just focus on clients and everybody else and not focus on your stuff. Hey.
Oh yeah, totally. Much easier to see everyone else's issues than our own. But yeah.
Yeah.
Persis.
I have a question actually. You said that pain in your body is related, could be related to something in your past, from your past.
Yeah, I would say not could be, I'd say it is. It's a given. Pain in your body has a root from something that's happened before. Yes.
So I've had several spine surgeries, and I continue to have problems with my spine.
Yeah, well, come and have a session with me, because essentially we want to get to the root of what they're about, whether that's some kind of soul contract because of what you've got up to in past lives that we need to sort out, whether there's some attachment there, whether you've got some belief pattern, an unresolved trauma from your younger years that you haven't made peace with yet, or whether it's a combo of all of that. So I could support you to discover what that is yourself.
Cool, because it's kind of hereditary as well, because my dad had it.
Yeah, hereditary. Yeah, whatever. I mean, we get this. I mean, I don't buy into it. Okay. Well, I do. I believe hereditary, but hereditary is something that happens with beliefs. It becomes something mental that's handed down, so we can work with that as well. And it is possible you've got ancestral trauma coming through. You know, wherever it's from, we can sort it out. And I think as healers, we all need to learn to have enough tools to go in all of these different directions to get to the root of what it is. But pain always has a thought pattern component that will bring emotional issues as well. Because, you know, read my book. I mean, dis-ease, is this a chapter? It might be a chapter in my book. Dis-ease begins with a thought. All disease begins with a thought. It all does. And as that thought is fed, as it comes into our mental field, we feed it by more of our own thoughts, or we let other people's fear-based thoughts come in here and attach to it until it becomes dense enough to become an emotion. And once it's an emotion that we are not processing, that we're holding, it will become dense enough to be something in our body. So we've got to work backwards to get to why we've got it in our body, whether it's from trauma in this life or a past life or somewhere else or a combo.
Cool. And can we resolve it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I won't swear, but yeah, absolutely.
You can swear.
Yeah, like, you know, I was going to extend absolutely and throw something in the middle there, but we can. We can fix anything. We are God, you know, we are part of creation. We are that. So we can do real magic. Yes, when we know we can. We can't if we've got fear, but if we're holding love, we can create whatever we want, and that can include a pain-free body. Yes, absolutely.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. So what are you taking away from this talk? What's sitting with you?
I'm taking away that, yeah, I am going to open up to that little light around me all the time.
Good.
Find out who it is, why
Good.
it's there.
That might be where all your answers are, Persis. You might not need to work with anybody. Okay, cool. Thank you. So
Thank you.
What's standing out and what are you taking away, Patricia?
I'm going to get back to raising my vibration and keeping it up.
Nice.
Get into that practice of doing that every day.
Lovely. Yeah. I think a daily practice, I don't miss a daily practice, whether that's some yoga or some breathing, some prayer, depending on how long I've got, I might do all of it. But make some time to tune in with your higher self or your God and set yourself up for the day, even if it's just 60 seconds. It's definitely worth it for your vibration. Thank you, Patricia.
Just quickly, we can do magic. There's a song, I'll have to Google the song, but the words are coming to my mind about that, playing in my mind now. We can do magic. Yeah. Magic. Someone might know that song.
I know that song. Yeah, good song.
Right, thanks.
And Nikki and Michelle, what are you taking away? What's sitting with you from this talk?
Oh, I try and do daily practice of self-love, divine love and stuff 2 or 3 times a day, if I can remember. And it does help keep your vibration up and going. But yeah, definitely, and clearing out my energy field every day, because I can feel when I'm not in a good space, my higher mind can't bring in that divine light, that divine feeling.
That's right, Michelle. Yes, good.
I can't do it. So then I asked them and got my guidance team to clear everything they can possibly clear off, heal whatever needs to be healed, release whatever needs to be released. And I usually can feel all that happening, and then within several minutes, however long it takes, that feeling of divine love comes in and it hits me smack hard in the heart chakra.
That's good work, Michelle. That's
yeah.
beautiful. And what Michelle's doing is, I'm thinking intention. You know, if you've got the intention to get yourself clean and to lift yourself up, then the magic starts to happen, just like what Michelle's sharing, and she can get to a place where she can access these higher chakras again much more easily. Beautiful, Michelle.
Thank you.
Nikki, what's your takeaway?
Hi, folks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm going through strange headphones I'm not used to here. I've recently made some changes myself. It's my Saturn return this year, so I better get my shit together, basically. I've left the DHB. I was working too many lates and nights and call. It's really good to hear that in Rotorua that they're more progressive. Talking in Tauranga, which is a lot more conservative. That if you talk to people individually, your consultants, they'll have a good open conversation with you. But if you're talking within the group, there's a lot more shutdown. So I've left the DHB. I'm now working for a small private hospital, then I can focus on my practice and then just go into the DHB occasionally. So that's good for my energy levels. I found myself feeling a lot better, a lot less drained.
Good.
So yeah,
good.
a lot more self-care this year and a lot more focus on what I'm doing, and also working with my guides and other people's guides.
Nice. So you're listening to your intuition and you are actually acting on it.
Yes.
So it's something else I talk about in my book. We can listen to our intuition, then do nothing about it. So I love that you are listening to yourself and you're taking action. And that's power, Nikki. Yeah, go you. Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for joining us today. It was an awesome time, heaps of learnings. It was a very cool Zoom, cool conversation.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, if you want to know what I'm up to with trainings, make sure you subscribe to my newsletter through my website, dawngracekelly.com, because I'll only be taking a tiny group when I start that training, and you know I'll put it out on my newsletter first. So subscribe.
And the training, and we will put it up for our members as well, Dawn?
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Happy day, everybody.
Thank you, Dawn.
Same to you.